We're in Berlin, as we all know, and we're with Johnny Messo, a good friend of OCN. We got the privilege to meet him in Brussels at the last Religious Freedom Conference, and he's taken a few minutes now during one of the breaks to talk with us. Johnny is the president of the World Council of Arameans, or Syriacs. Johnny, nice to see you again.
Nice to see you again, Father. Always a pleasure seeing you.
Tell us about your involvement, tell us about what you're doing, and then we'll go a little bit into the conference itself.
Okay, so we are a United Nations NGO. We have a special consultative status with the Economic and Social Council of the UN. So from time to time we submit oral or written statements in Geneva or New York City. On the other hand, we're also a global umbrella federation of different national Aramean or Syriac groups. And from that perspective, we try to preserve our cultural heritage. We try to present the needs, the wishes, and the challenges of our people. And we have a lot of meetings with diplomats. This is just in brief our work.
Okay. Now, when I frame it in the president of the World Council of Arameans, for those who don't know the Arameans or the Syriacs, I think it's important we just educate them a little bit.
The Arameans are a biblical people. It's interesting to note that the Old Testament, the Hebrew Old Testament, mentions that the Jewish people, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, they come from a land called Padan Aram or Aram Naharaim, and they're even called Arameans. My father was a wandering Aramean, says Deuteronomy 26, verse 5. So this is one. The other thing that's interesting about the Arameans is that they were merchants in antiquity, they were tradesmen, they had a language which is called Aramaic, and Aramaic is the second language of the Old Testament. And even Jesus Christ himself spoke Aramaic as his mother tongue. And the interesting thing is it's also my mother tongue. We still speak Aramaic, and you find sort of Aramaic islands all across the Middle East. It's due to Arabization and Islamization of the whole Middle East, because as you know, Father, until the 11th century, the majority of the Middle East consisted of Christians. And many of these Christians were indigenous Arameans, and the history of the Aramean people goes back to at least 3,000 years ago.
It's a long time ago, isn't it? Unfortunately, we have short memories today. Talk to us about the conference itself. Why are you here? Of course, you've been invited to come, I know that, but I know this is special to your heart. So talk with us about the Religious Freedom Conference as it relates to the Ecumenical Patriarchate and as it relates to the Syriac people.
I came here, of course, to speak about religious freedom and equality with respect to Turkey. We have a population, Father, in Turkey that consists of 25,000. There are only 3,000 left in the original homeland in the southeastern part of Turkey, and the rest lives all across Turkey, but especially in the Istanbul area. I had the honor myself to meet His All Holiness, the Ecumenical Patriarch, earlier this year in Istanbul with regards to the refugee question, the refugees coming from Syria, one can say. But we face still a lot of discrimination as Christians. There are many examples one can give, maybe just one simple example. Of course, in the case of the Greeks, this is the Halki Seminary, is very famous. We don't understand why the Turkish leadership don't want to call him the Ecumenical Patriarch, because there are many speakers here who don't understand it either. It's a simple thing for all of us. The second thing is the opening of the Halki Seminary. Of course, it doesn't even need to be debated or argued why it should be opened. It just should be opened. So there's no discussion about that either. With respect to the Aramean or Syriac people in Turkey, it is really hard to grasp why we as an indigenous people of Turkey still have not been recognized by the Turkish government. Secondly, we see that our cultural heritage, for example, has been destroyed, and it has not been defended or promoted, safeguarded by Turkey. We see that as Christians we are being discriminated against, for example, by religion. If we see that the presidency of religious affairs promotes one form of Islam and ignores or excludes all other forms of religions, especially Christianity, by funding mosques, paying the salaries of Muslim clerics, and not doing the same when it comes to churches or our clergymen, again we see discrimination. But one of the most disturbing things to us is that today we are still facing expropriation of lands. They're stealing, they're taking away land that historically and legally belongs to the Aramean Syriac people. And the Greeks or the Armenians face exactly the same. And this is nothing new. This has happened for more than 100 years.
What has really impressed me is the fact that we now have all the minorities, well not all, but probably most of the minorities coming together and saying, wait a minute, what's happening here is wrong. and it should change. So I have a lot of hope from that when I see it happening. Let me go to Syria a minute. Let's go to Malula. Let's talk about the two bishops that we know were kidnapped, and now we hear 12 or 13 nuns have also been kidnapped. What can you bring us to light on those subjects?
First of all, about the bishops. On the 22nd of April earlier this year, they had been kidnapped. One was Syriac Orthodox, was a good friend of mine. He helped build the church in Holland. The other one was Greek Orthodox. They have been kidnapped almost 230 days ago, and still there's no sign of life about both of them. Nothing known about the whereabouts, etc. And we are actually disappointed by the reaction of the Western community, especially from European governments, because they are not doing much as they can do about this. Or we are also disappointed in the Turkish government, because they have also a lot of leverage in the part of Syria where they were kidnapped, both of the bishops. Now this is one. The second thing is the message that is, there is a twofold message here. The message that's being sent out to the Christians is that you're abandoned, we don't care about you, we cannot help you. So the Christians automatically leave their homeland because they feel like helpless, they feel like defenseless, nobody is coming to their rescue. The other message that is conveyed is to the kidnappers, to the Muslim fundamentalists, to the militant Muslims, one can say, is that there is impunity. Whatever they do, you're free to do whatever you want. If you want to target Christians, go ahead. So this happened on the 4th or 5th of September when Ma'lula, an ancient Christian town father, where Aramaic is still spoken, was bluntly attacked, shamelessly was attacked by militant Muslims. And a few days later, the media reported that the city was recaptured and the rebels withdrew. This was not really true. The rebels were just reorganizing themselves, as we have seen, because just a few days ago they again shamefully attacked this town, and they kidnapped about 12 nuns and reportedly also some children. And I've seen footage of this attack against this town, and your heart cries if you see those things. And just a few weeks ago, the last week of October, they did the same thing to another Aramean town called Sadat in the area of Homs. And Ma'lula, by the way, is north of Damascus. And this other town, Sadat, they attacked this one as well. And there were like 3,000 families in one village, and in another village there were another 1,000 Aramean. They're all purely Aramean Christians. And they attacked that town, and they held hostage for about 1,500 families who couldn't escape for 1 week. They had no water, no food, no electricity, no nothing. They were just captured there in their own village. I've seen yesterday, as you've seen, Father, the bishop, the Archbishop of Syria, he came here. We had the honor to receive him yesterday at the conference. He also showed me footage later, videos, photos of destroyed churches, of churches which are being looted, destroyed, burned. And we, as people living in the diaspora, we're just looking at it and thinking like, well, that's life.
Why do you think that is, Johnny? I mean, here we have a major issue. If that happened to a synagogue, if that happened to a Protestant cathedral, if that happened to a Roman Catholic church, the world would be up in arms. Is it because we've been so beat down that we just say, well, you know, it's just a part of our life and we really don't have to respond to it? Or is it something that we really have to change?
I don't think it's part of our life, because I agree 100% with you that when we see, for example, a Muslim cleric being kidnapped, if we would have seen that a mosque would be burned or would be attacked, then the world would get outrageous, right? Everybody would condemn it by the harshest words and strongest word. But when it comes to the Christians of the Near East, I have no explanation, Father, why this is happening. The only thing I can observe is that there is a huge indifference towards the Christians of the Middle East, whether they be the Copts in Egypt who have been targeted, or the Aramean Christians who have been exterminated, not only in Turkey, just like the Greeks and the Armenians, but even in Iraq. In 1 decade, the population dwindled from 1.4 million, Father, to less than 400,000 Aramean Christians, just in 1 decade. And in Syria, it's exactly the same. We have written to the United Nations Security Council, to a number of ambassadors, ministers, and held many, many meetings. And we always tell them, like, we have to act preemptively, because what we see in Syria is exactly the same as what we have seen and experienced before in Turkey or in Iraq, and we know what the outcome is. Of this.
It'll be the same.
It's exactly the same. But the question here, Father, is very important: is who can be held accountable for the mass exodus of the Christians of the Middle East? They are the heartbeat of the Middle East, one could say, of Christianity in the Middle East. If the indigenous Christians are leaving, the Greeks, Armenians, and the Aramean Christians, or the Copts, what will happen with Christianity?
Well, the fact that we're here and the fact that we're raising our voice and attempting to educate more people is important. Can you direct our listeners anywhere where they can find more information about what you do, about what your NGO does?
Thank you very much, Father, for that. They can go to our website, for example. It's wca-ngo.org, or Google World Council of Arameans Syriacs. But the organizers of this conference and the archons, I must commend them. They have done a fantastic job, Father. Just like 3 years ago, now again we see that they are able to bring many experts, politicians, intellectuals from different countries, especially from Turkey, together at this forum. And people can network, people can exchange knowledge, information, and they can learn from each other. And I think they have done really a tremendous job here, and I would like to compliment them on that.
Great. Thanks, Johnny, for being here. God bless your work. God keep you safe, and all of the people that you are responsible for. It really is a tremendous mission, but we believe in a tremendous God. We believe in a healing God. As Paul says, even persecuted, we continue to go on. Thanks, Johnny.
Amen. Thank you, and may God bless you all as well.